welcome to this week's Draw, Paint and Print video. This week I want us to begin with one of our colour beginnings, our creative beginnings, either the ones that we've done last time when we worked with that watercolour printing technique, or you may develop one from one of those images. Or develop one completely new as well, just by putting watercolour down and letting it do its own thing. And I want us then to develop that into something. So the example I'm going to show you today is I'm going to develop into a landscape that I'm familiar with. It's one of the times that I've been out at Dog Rocks. And we're going to be thinking about some of the removal and adding and creating textures, those techniques that we've been looking at in some of the watercolour videos that we've done during this term. This is an opportunity to experiment and to be imaginative. Don't try and create the landscape just as you see it. Here are some photographs that I have taken when I was out at Dog Rocks one evening, and it was a beautiful evening with the sun setting, and I had been drawing and painting out there looking at that sunset, and then turned around and here the moon was rising. And in pools of water that form in the rocks, here was that reflection of the moon. And it was just something at that time that has stayed with me, and that beautiful colours and the shapes and the quietness of that time. I've worked up in my sketchbook, and that would be a beginning, and thinking about those 3-line drawings that we've talked about in other videos, where you maybe do a horizontal or a straight line, a curved line and a zigzag line or a diagonal line, and creating some quick little compositional sketches. I've interpreted the photograph and excluded elements, and I'm not entirely relying on at all the photograph. The photograph is purely there for me to get back into that moment. In terms of the composition and what I'm creating in the video, is that I'm relying on drawings that I'll make and that I've made, and other times that I've been sketching out there at Dog Rocks. There's my source material. The photograph is simply there to get me back into that moment. So don't develop your composition and try to be copying a photograph in this exercise. Be imaginative. Make things bigger than what they need to be or what they are. Make them smaller. Emphasize elements that you want to emphasize to tell the story that you want to say about the picture that you're going to create. A starting point for this process might be to work just in your sketchbook, as you can see me here, and coming up with some colour beginnings, thinking about the brush marks like what we've been looking at with Turner, putting down areas of colour and just experimenting very quickly with the possibilities of where you could go. Each of these ones that you're seeing, I did very quickly and without thinking about it too much. Now working on watercolour paper, I begin with a colour beginning, simply thinking about colours and shapes and tones. I've also then began to remove watercolour, here large areas using a spray bottle. Using the atomizer again on a misty spray, I'm spraying sections and creating textures then by wiping away quickly those wet dots. Then using washes, I start to define areas like the rocks, and reinforcing some of the colours in the foreground areas, defining the shapes of the pool. putting in stronger darks and adding little bits of detail here where necessary, I then start to build up greater sense of form, as well as adding in details of distant trees, and begin to then think about areas that I can drop in those final darks to finish off the painting. So as always, just give it a go. The more of these I think that you do, the better of them you'll get. And be thinking about those broad beginnings. Don't worry about getting those details absolutely correct. Let them be just a dash and a dot that you put in that pulls it all together. As always, good luck, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with.